talk about Higuruma's domain expansion because I got a few questions about it, but spoilers beware. All right, first of all, shout out to Naruto for the questions today, and thank you for the support, man. And as you can see, his first question here is, could Higuruma's domain stop a domain clash from even happening if he opens his first, due to the fact that there is a rule of non-violence in his domain? All right, so for anybody who needs the reminder, Higuruma's domain is a lot like Hikari's in that it's a non-lethal domain and its sure hit effect isn't even an attack. So because of that, his operates a little bit differently from how we see others. And part of it is that there is a rule of non-violence that is enforced on both parties within the domain, which is why Yuji couldn't strike Higuruma, and instead he gets basically reset back toward the defendant's podium. So would this same effect prevent a domain clash from happening? And I think this requires two separate answers. So the way that Naruto specifically posed the question was, would it stop a domain clash from happening if he opened it first? And yes, because if somebody was in his domain, they cannot open their domain because that would count as an act of aggression or an act of violence. And then I know this wasn't the question, but it feels like a good place to just go ahead and talk about it. In an actual domain clash with Higuruma, like assuming he opened his domain at the exact same time as somebody else, I think that Higuruma would be a lot like Hikari in that his domain would be good in domain clashes and would have the advantage in the tug of war for whose domain is going to win. And that's because their domains aren't lethal and the sure hit effects aren't attacks. So that doesn't mean he's going to win every single domain clash by default, but he should be really good at it. And then Naruto's second question was, does the rule of non-violence in Higuruma's domain apply to defensive techniques? Because we didn't see Sukuna even attempt to use Hollow Wicker Basket or anything. And in my opinion, it would apply to those things. Now, by strict definition, somebody casting Hollow Wicker Basket isn't an act of violence because it is a defensive technique. But I feel like it goes against the spirit of what the domain's purpose is. Again, it doesn't have an attack as its sure hit. It is merely about setting up that courtroom and the rules that everyone must follow. So even though it isn't strictly violence, I think things like Hollow Wicker Basket and domain amplification wouldn't be allowed and you would be prevented from doing so. And Naruto follows that up with saying, because why wasn't Sukuna worried? He didn't know that Kamutoke would be stripped from him instead of Shrine. So did he just not care if he potentially lost Shrine? And I think that's the answer. I don't think he viewed anyone as a threat after Gojo was taken out. So even if he did lose his curse technique, I'm sure he just thought he would easily put Higuruma down and get it back.